Saying good Monday morning to our listeners and viewers. How's everybody doing this morning? Hope all is well with you this morning. Hope you had a great weekend and looking forward towards a wonderful week ahead of us. Good morning to those of you who are tuned in to us via, of course, the FM's terrestrial radio, as some folks would say, 105.5, 105.9. Good morning, those of you who are listening and viewing via our social media platforms, whether it's a Facebook page, YouTube channel. Good morning, YouTube channels, I should say. There's a double dose of them. Good morning to you and welcome. Let me say good morning to Mr. Sylvan McIntyre. Nice to have you back in studios this morning.
It's a long time, right?
Yeah, seems to be on a bit of an extensive lead, right?
Consecutive, yeah. So good morning to you, GT. Good morning again to the staff and management of GBN. And good morning to our wonderful listeners, followers, well-wishers, the audience that we have outside there, and as folks would say, we have a following outside there. Good morning to you. It's always good to be on this program. I look forward to it every day, and when I'm not here, imagine that you are missed.
Thoughts are flowing through your minds, what you would like to discuss on the program, because it's good when you give information that could help to motivate individuals, make them better individuals, you understand, and the information that we throw out every Monday seem to help a lot of people get themselves in a particular way about their lives.
And I think that's one of the reasons why people look forward to it, because every time we host the program, people would, either call back or by someone give a response saying that they learned so much and this meant so much to them. I also want to say thanks to Sheldon.
Last week.
But was it not the week before?
Was it the week before? Yes, because last week we didn't. Was Easter Monday. We didn't have a show on Easter Monday. Although it was they would say April Fool's Day. The 1st of April was.
Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of lost a tradition a wee bit.
I think so. And somebody called me and said, well, not that I call it because I feel that you're a fool, but I just call it like it's the 1st of April. But so I think he represented well.
Yes,
and
he did. Yes,
that's
he did.
The expanse of the I'm Safer. We do have quite a wide membership growing, and people from everywhere came on virtually to facilitate the aspect of the program. From the feedback again, that was good.
Yes.
So going forward, it's something that we will see. You're not going to be seeing Sylvan McIntyre every Monday morning. I will be accompanied by other people, or in my absence, other persons representing the foundation will be on.
All right, so and they do usually fill the gap nicely. So it's, of course, we love to have you, but somebody else, of course, represents. It's all good also.
Yes, so we want to say a big shout out to Sheldon over in the UK.
Yes.
I think he's locked in listening to us. I want to say how proud we are to have had you and how well you represent it.
All right, man. Thanks once again. What we usually get into this segment in terms of what happened, a little bit of review of the week past. Of course, we had a couple of weeks that passed us in terms of lots have happened in Grenada. Condolences to the families that of course, that tragic incident that took place.
With a motorcycle
incident, and we see what, sometimes folks driving or riding recklessly cause incidents of that nature. You understand? So it's great to whatever you do, the safety in terms of it is a critical part.
Right. So, this would have driven, a pointed instrument through me, having, heard of that tragic incident. And again, let me just join with you to sympathize and empathize with the bereaved of those young men who passed.
Yes.
It's never a good thing and never one way to accept having a loss. And so this is why one of the focus on our program this morning is we're going to be speaking later on after the first break and how to cope with eventualities, tragic situation, how we can find a coping mechanism to deal with the psychosocial support. It is my intention on popular demand and request and observation that aspect of healing and that aspect of care is sometimes lacking in our society, and I think this morning we wanted to focus on that a bit. So I give about 5 points as to some things people can do. Obviously the program will not be able to accommodate all of it,
because it's lengthy in terms of if you're going to speak on every point that you were making in terms of the different coping mechanisms. It's a lot of conversation.
It's quite a lot of conversation. So we just this morning I was hoping to have had the president of the Greeners Bikers Association with me. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it for various reasons, or maybe obvious ones too. What we wanted to have done was to speak on safety in general. Motor vehicle, I will be having a mechanic on.
Yes.
I wanted to bring him on a dual fold to speak on the motorcycle safety issue and general aspect of the mechanisms of a motor vehicle safety on the road. We are going to have that on the program. I'm actually going to have
that should be very interesting.
A mechanic to come on program to talk about the safety mechanism and how risky it is and the mechanisms that keep a vehicle running and failure to do them, what are the conditions, circumstances that one could have out of them, the results. And so they are going to also point out the checks that one can do, as simple as just, your steering, your brake fluid, and all these things.
Sometimes your vehicle will tell you things that are wrong with them, and sometimes we pay a little or no attention.
Yes.
You hear a little noise, you may think, that's a little noise, but it's actually telling you something is actually something's going wrong.
Absolutely. And because we are modern in many ways, there are some displays that will be on dashboard that a lot of people don't understand what it means. And so that is one of the things that will be mentioned when you see certain signs or certain symbols. What do they represent and what you should do? Yeah. We've had calls so many times. People call me and say, "I've seen this shown up on my dashboard. What exactly does this mean?" Like a lady told me this time, "I saw this little thing with this 2 little dots coming from different angles. One going left, one going right, like a little bucket or something coming from it." And I said, "Oh, that's not very serious. It means that your windscreen wiper
the washer is empty.
You need to just put water in, and that will be, simple things like that. And that could create a panic on the road. And people say, "I've seen this," and they just panic and maybe pull off, make a bad drive. That can create an accident.
But it's good that folks pay attention to these things at times. You know, it's good that you see these signs, because modernized vehicles, they do tell you what's wrong. You know, and I have seen vehicles that tells you that you have a low inflated tire.
Yes.
It tells you that.
Computer would do that. I think it's automated. Sometimes you may hear voice. Sometimes you may just see a symbol on it, which is great. Yes. But because people sometimes don't understand what these things mean, it is also good for somebody who's more versed in it to be able to come and explain it. So as we go through, time is running really quickly.
Yes.
There's quite a bit that, as you said, on the review that we would want to speak about. But before we really touch that, sometimes we raise the issue of what should be done. When it is done, we do not really give the praises to it. This morning I'll be shouting out at least one thing that we're happy with.
Yes.
And I think it came as a consequence of our program. I hold it to the chest GT. And I'm going to point out a few things that we are going to get some pictures of, and possibly on our next program we're going to show them, are some concerns still, some parts of the city and some parts around Grenada. So let me shout out first. The Grand Etang area. When last did you pass there?
I passed there on Friday night. But so I didn't get to see anything in the night.
What happened to your headlamps?
Yeah, it was but sometimes you focused on the driving, so you're not looking over. It was like late. It's a little after midnight driving there.
Right.
Came from the Saraka activity.
Oh, Saraka is one of the things that happened too.
Yeah.
Right.
I came from that. But it was like during the day going up probably in conversation too. I didn't pay attention. What happened?
Okay.
What happened?
Let me tell you. It's my thing. My eyes open. It's eyes on the issue really, and I want to express my really heartfelt appreciation to the administration, maybe government or Ministry of Roadworks and Transport, etc., for what they've done, the attention they've given to Grand Etang. I hope it's the beginning and not an end. What they've done, they started clearing that strip of road from the national park going north.
Yes.
You would see that on either side, they've done some clearing quite a bit. Okay. You know what that has done? Yeah. It has exposed a bit more the risk that we've been speaking about.
Okay.
So what they've done, they cleared the road very nicely. And as early as this morning, I was up there and I saw somebody again on street clearing. And it really shows more clearly the challenge and the risk associated with the edge of those roads. Right. That little bridge that we spoke about, the last one before you get to the national park coming from Grenville side.
Yes.
That narrow bridge, it is broken on either side.
Yeah.
It is slipped up, and vehicles, one vehicle, as a matter of fact, within the last 2 months, I know one vehicle went down there.
Okay.
And as you drive further north, you would see that the walls are lowered to the edge of the road. There are old landslip on the sides of the road that leads down into those valleys. And so now that it's cleared, people can see a little bit more the edge of the road, and so they can drive a little bit safer. So congratulations for that.
Right.
The second one is, did you see that they are placing mirrors around country? Yes, they are. In the Grand Etang area, closer to the Hitmizi corner.
Yeah, there's a mirror there now.
There's a mirror there now, so you can, as you're coming from St. George, heading into St. Andrew, Grenville side, into that deep bend,
yes,
you can see something.
I saw that mirror
coming your way.
I saw that mirror.
But further on, I would wish, while I commend the authority for the initiative, we would look to see very closely how they are going to be increasing their presence and their activities in that area to enhance road safety. We want to see more guardrails, and Lord knows where that accident occurred, where that barren truck went over, the edge of the wheel chipped the side of that wall that was so low and went over. We don't want a repeat of that. We do not want any fatalities. And so, Grenada, we want you to be a bit more proactive. Administration, Ministry of Works, Transport, Roads, etc. We want you to be more proactive. We want you also to help erect some signs in those areas that people can see as they go through. And finally, my appeal would be for people who would love to support us from the AMSAFER, the Ashley McIntyre Safety Foundation for Roads.
Yes.
In the Granite area, we want to give it some attention.
All right.
We know it is poor visible at nights mostly, but we want to put some reflectors along the sides of the roads, on the walls and on the edges. Right. So when vehicle lights come on, they can strike on them so people could understand the expanse of the road. So as corporate Grenada, as citizens, as people who care for our community, we should not depend on the government only to be able to create safety initiative. We must take responsibility. So I'm asking people within the diaspora, within Grenada, if you would like to make a contribution, sow some reflectors that we can install. Obviously, we will not do that on our own. We'll get the permission and get the endorsement of Ministry of Works and Transport so that these could be put up very conspicuously and safe area that people can see, and we hope that it will enhance the safety along that road.
Great initiative there, Mr. Thornby. Let's take our first break. We come back and we have a lot to discuss this morning. Yes. Stay with us, folks. To the point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We'll be right back after the break. Don't touch your dial.
Saturday, May 4th, there will be a shift on the island as the biggest grilling fest in Grenada moves to the big parish. The Maggie King of the Grill competition is at Progress Park, St. Andrew. Come taste the most sumptuous creations from the grill as top chefs and food enthusiasts showcase their culinary skills. Maggie King of the Grill is a festival like no other with live soca music, fun attractions, and games for the entire family. Then from 6 p.m., get a chance to win up to $5,000 cash and bingo. Interested vendors and grillers should call 456-3454 to register before March 31st. It's the Maggie King of the Grill competition at Progress Park, St. Andrew. Gates open from 12 noon. Bring your appetite and stay tuned to this station for more details.
You mentioned the wing kai, then you have things like manuals, force combat, you know. We have the low power that.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for piece of cake. I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Once again, Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Mr. McIntyre, welcome back. You know, we've been thinking about things that we have to commend the government about, the ministries or whoever is responsible for doing these things. I'm not sure if you passed Truth Tongue lately, but I happened to notice it over the weekend. That is it Halifax?
Right.
Halifax, is it? That's the right name?
Yeah, we have Halifax Street heading all the way from St. John.
Right, that's Halifax Street.
Yeah, go across.
And you know, usually there's that open culvert that's been there for a while.
Yes.
Opposite where formerly Grand Lake used to be. I think there's now one of those credit union buildings on the side there. And we see those culverts.
And there was a Moses Now store was around there. And
I'm seeing that being covered now.
Right.
And I want to commend the authorities for doing that. You know, it's been like that for a long time. Years. Since I'm a kid, I know that be like that.
So you think they're listening to us?
Well, it's either they're listening or they're
Let's
hearing.
say yes, they are. But I really think I love the initiative, as you mentioned. The Upper Locust Street one was commendable.
Yes.
And we had the parliamentary representative for the town. Was it?
It was called Joseph.
Miss Claudia Joseph.
Yes.
She did speak about it, and that was good. Covered us, but I was hoping I was going to see more happening.
I mean, it's
quicker.
happening. It's happening. We should have seen it done in a faster way. We would like that. We would like it happen.
But the
fast.
one that happened now is commendable, and we would want to see more of that. I think Grenadians appreciate it because we've seen a lot of people damage their foot or their feet. Sometimes they slip and they go down into this drain. And again, as we speak about Grenada, how we develop, the movement of pedestrians and people comes a lot more. So in the rush of things, sometimes you don't even actually see these drops, and people get down into it. In addition to that, it creates more road space for the vehicle, so it's safer. I remember one time there was a gentleman who was driving and somebody stepped into the road just as his vehicle was coming, and the wheel of his vehicle chipped the side of the person's foot.
And you see what happens there. I sort of prefer the concrete slab rather than the metal rail. I think I prefer that. I prefer some folks would put the metal rail across. That is okay too in terms of easy removal. I understand that. In terms, sometimes those guttering needs to be cleaned.
Yes.
So the metal rails could be removed.
Without crossing, you can put the handles and the bend flat on the concrete slabs as well, and lift them when you need to take them out. And a gentleman would be happy that we mentioned this. There are some of even the grills, the metal grills, they put them in the opposite direction. So if you have bicyclists, motorcyclists riding through, the wheel would runs.
The wheel goes within the direction,
and that's the risk. So while we've seen this initiative, I will not cease until again I see that Upper Locust Street further up towards the old government gate, that section with that box drain, I do think sincerely that it could be covered.
I think that as it's been done with the tongue and the tongue, Lower Locust Street area is done, Upper Locust Street, I think that's going to be taken care of. So
they're going to come further.
I'm kind of optimistic about that happening.
Fingers and hands onto the chest, okay?
We'll be crossing everything that's possible.
That's correct. That's correct. But as we speak about the commendable ones,
yes.
I would take some photos of some of these things that I think impede on people's safety. When you walk through the carnage to the waterfront just close to Nawasa, of recent time, it seems like a boat's owner, they deposited 2 huge engines right on the side of the road. It's been there for at least 3 weeks. Maybe it's under repair, maybe it has to be taken somewhere. That has occupied a good portion of the thoroughfare for pedestrians. In addition to that, there's a no parking area there. But if there's a no parking and there's other obstruction, what do you expect people to do? Walk into the street and put themselves at risk. While people have to be facilitated, it has to be minimum time, and I think if permission is granted, that to me we may have exceeded permission time. And so if those massive engines were put there, they should have been already removed and taken to a place of repair. And that's one sore site. It is not looking good. I think they put some tarpaulin to make it look a little bit covered right now, or maybe to protect it. But it should not be there.
It should be there for no lengthy period of time. Maybe for an hour or two, just to have it. It's
been there for at least 3 weeks.
So which means they don't plan on moving it.
I have seen that. So maybe they have difficulty in sourcing parts to repair it. But my point is, it should be removed. And we need more eyes from our ministries and our enforcement people to see these things and act on them. We move too slow on things. We are too reactive, and we allow things to fester and become sore. It becomes more expensive. It becomes more heart-wrenching and everything else to remove them later on. So as you see them, deal with them. The next one.
Get in contact with the owner and have that taken care of.
You travel on the Belmont top road. You have the Kirani James on the bottom.
Yes.
The Belmont road on the top side. I drove to there recently, and I looked closer to before, as you swing that corner after there was a traffic light nightclub.
Traffic light, yes.
As you're going towards Grandas, as you swing that bend coming from Springs going downward, on the right-hand side heading towards Grandas, there's some huge building, aggregate. Like old pieces of wood and gravels and sand and things. That is taken like about 1/3 of that roadway. It's again, you have people coming from Springs entering that Belmont road from there, and you have vehicles coming from the Paddock direction heading towards Grandas, and that bit of stuff have been sitting there, as a matter of fact, trees and other things started growing into that material that people dump there. Is somebody looking at that?
Yeah.
Do we see that this thing is impeding on the safety of people who are walking and people who are using the streets? While again, people need to build their homes, we need to facilitate them. But again, permission should be granted and should be for a minimum period of time. Right. It should not get there until it becomes an eyesore environmentally. The health issues come with it, creating rodents, and the aesthetic is being destroyed technically.
The option within that same area too, where the road is being used as a car wash. Have you ever noticed that?
On that same road?
On that same road. Lower down, lower to the actual traffic light before you're coming in.
Right.
That road, sometimes there's 4 or 5 vehicles now. There's minimal space now for you pass.
Okay.
And it takes a while for other vehicles coming in the opposite direction for you have to wait. I mean, I understand some folks are doing it for their livelihood, which I understand. You understand. But yes. I just think using the actual road as a car wash, I don't think that's acceptable.
No,
and the authorities need to look into that seriously.
I have seen some small steps, and people would say, give us time, give things time for it to happen. But how much time is enough time? I think that there should be time factors set, and it should be really minimum within hours or days, and give people time to remove it. If they can't, they should be assisted in removing them to a place that is safer. And as you mentioned, businesses, there are too many small businesses that have been established without going through the proper condition. I understand now, application made to physical planning and development, you have to satisfy all of these conditions, access for parking of your vehicle, if you have a business and so forth, you have to justify that you have sufficient parking off the road before you can be granted those kind of permission. Physical planning has become more rigorous in the enforcement measures. Congratulations. People have to satisfy condition for the environmental conditions. So an environmental impact study and all that has to be undertaken, where your sewer, your water, and all of these things have to be factored in prior to granting permission. That is a plus for Grenada.
Yes,
we must see these things not just written, but as they are now being more enforced, I want to applaud those initiatives. That is also very commendable. Now, issue number 3. We spoke about that wall that is precariously perched in Grandans before you get to the cemetery. People have brought it to my attention again, that's a hazard. Are we going to take it down? Are we going to retrofit it, reinforce it by something before somebody gets trapped underneath it?
Well, a couple of years ago, that wall was worked on. It was worked on.
Well, yes. But it has gotten worse.
Yeah.
So do we need to wait on it to collapse? There's another one. After you leave the Westerhall Point, heading again north, there's a building on the left-hand side. I think it's marked for sale now, before you get to the rum factory. And a massive wall, again, it's about a 35 to 40 degrees angle towards the road. And that will slip and fall at any time. Now, vehicles traveling there that may move off may just get there just in time when it drops. Because I saw recently we were doing something happening and some people were doing bamboo and so forth. And just as a vehicle showed up, the bamboo fell right in front of the vehicle, just in time. So similar, in a bigger way, that wall and other things for somebody walking along into that Westerhall area, that wall that is leaning towards the road, can we not have the owners of the property have it removed, or could the state step in and have it removed for the safety of people walking or traveling there? There's another old building towards the Riverlet area in Grenville again. Somebody brought it to my attention. We're going to take a look at these things. It is similar to the old church when it started breaking apart.
And then we waited until it actually fell before something could be
waited until it fell apart. But I think, as it is known, the Christians are praying. Grenada is still a very blessed country. We're not having those kind of fatalities and so on in that kind of a way. We're having different ones. But later on, we'll be speaking about how to cope with those situations. But Grenada, I want us to be more proactive.
All right.
The safety measures, particularly road safety, there's much more we can do to be proactive about.
You know, Sylvan, we a couple of weeks ago when we did have a caller calling about the granite thing, you did speak about it, you commended them about the mirror and stuff. But I still think the authorities could actually get a bulldozer, get an excavator and remove that portion of just extended, rock or whatever is there and widen that road.
Yes, I believe so.
In the interim.
Yeah.
You understand?
So do you believe
even if though we're not able to pass on the mud or whatever is going to be existing there, no.
But you'll be able to see.
But you'll be able to to have a view, ahead of you, a better vision ahead of you.
Yeah. I agree 100%. But they would say to us, we've been clamoring about that. They put mirror, and now we're asking for them to widen. Could they do it all at once? But I think it's useful. In hindsight, we are good. We are happy to see the small steps. But GT, I don't think we should understate that those roads, especially in the Grand Canyon, they need to widen them.
Because the vast use of it now,
yes,
comparative to 40 years ago. You understand?
Yeah. 40 years ago was just the other day.
Yeah, but there were less vehicles on the road then.
Yes.
There were less vehicles on the road then. But in comparison to now, where you have over 500 or 600 vehicles passing on a daily basis and going going over the Grand Tang Road. You understand? Yes. In comparison to back then, there's more use of the roads now than before. You understand? Good. We have someone who's calling. I guess they want to contribute to the program some way or the other. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, GT.
Bling.
How you doing?
Too bad at all. Not too bad. Go ahead with your contribution, please.
All right. I want to say, Mr. Sylvan, good morning to you too.
Morning, sir.
I don't know if you can remember my voice, but before I give my 2 cents, I want to leave a number for you to call me after the program because it's very important. The number is 403-0436. Let me go ahead with my contribution, but take that number. Mr. Sylvan, you're doing a good job, and GT, you're doing a good job. I know you are very long time. I don't know if you pick up the voice by somebody and see for at least 6 going on 7 years now. I remember when you in sport, and Mr. Sylvan is a very good friend of mine, and I don't want to even bring up his son's name because his son was very close to me. I think all you should pick up who's speaking. I leave you all to guess. GT, I know when you was used to do sports and everything, I do sports with you. You used to do a very good job. But I want to ask 2 of y'all, either one of y'all, can any of y'all explain to me what is good news?
What is good news?
Good news?
I will leave it up to Sylvan.
Good news is things pleasant to the hearer.
Are you hearing me?
Are we hearing you? We hearing you. We hear. What is good news? You asked the question.
Yes, I want to know what is good news.
But good news cannot be defined in any particular general definition. Good news has to be things that is pleasant to those delivering it and those who are receiving it. Anything that seems to be pleasant that happens to be current and is accepted as favorable, that is in my opinion good news.
Would you accept the response? All right, but I think we may have the caller may have
we lost him.
We lost the caller for some reason. Are we going to take a break and get back into what happened?
We can take a break and then we will get back into the other segment.
Another segment of the discussion.
Yes.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. Don't touch it out. Classic Radio, GBN TV.
Coming up by bus, jeep and boat, you will enjoy a front row seat to breathtaking Trinidad and Tobago attractions. Antigua's biggest resort definitely delivers the goods. Cricket, crop over, a busy sum of top events in Barbados is on the horizon. From panorama to parade of bands, this steel band is making an impact on all fronts. It's all next on this station.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Good morning to those of you who are listening and viewing via our social media platforms. Good morning and welcome back once again. Mr. McIntyre, welcome back with us once again. Our feature conversation this morning, we're talking about, coping, the coping mechanism in dealing with the adversities of emergencies and so forth. Yeah. That's our chief conversation we're going to have for the next couple of minutes. Yeah. We're also going to offer the opportunity for individuals. Maybe they could chime in if time permits. If someone would ask a question, what does coping with a disaster means? How would you respond to that?
Right. There are a couple of professional guidance as to how people can deal with traumatic situations and how they can deal with adversities and unpleasant emergencies where one has to find a mechanism to survive. And as I use the word cope, because under most, if not all of the circumstance, at the end of the day, life is what one wants to save, prevent from deteriorating or otherwise. You may have situations where it may end up in fatalities, and there is no one way of handling any situation, and there is no textbook that can tell you precisely that's how you need to do it. As I mentioned a couple of programs ago, when I lost my son, unfortunately, tragically, I said, if you have not lost a child, you don't know what it is to lose a child. Yeah. And if you've lost a child under normal circumstances, it is as difficult. And if you lost or you lose a child, tragically, it is even worse. And so I want to use, and in the future I will be writing my own experience, real experience and my professional training in helping people as to how to deal and to cope with situations. Because I look at what I've done and the comments that people have made to me and say that you're strong. And I figured out that a lot of my professional, my spiritual and my own intuition has helped me to cope. And so going forward, understanding what's happening currently, I realize that Grenada has been faced with conditions where every weekend, technically, there is something that a family has to deal with. Recently, we've had the bikers who've lost their lives tragically. We've had these people who lost their homes. I think 17 persons of a family affected. That is in one area. Then there was another lady, her son allegedly set fire to her house and lost the entire house. That is tragic. We've had the young lady who lost her dad while she was competing at the Carifta Games and so on. That's also tragic. And so we have people who die as a result of criminal activities, etc. And so that aspect of trauma and that aspect of adversity that people face, one needs to dig deep down to find the coping mechanism. And it is not very easy. Before I expand on, and I know there's quite a number of points I can raise to deal with it, but I would want to again commend the Ministry of Social Services in terms of what they're doing in helping people to be counseled after a situation. The drawback to that, though, it is insufficient. And while the government or the state mechanism cannot do all, I believe strongly that we should be seeing a lot more effort, and even if a lot of effort has been made, it is not very obvious at times. So people need to know that the things are happening, and the access to the help must be easy. It must be on and in your face as often that when something happens, you will understand the bureaucracy of getting someone to provide some psychosocial support when a tragedy happens. It has to be broken down. Yeah. That's one. That's on the state mechanism. But how about us in society? How do we deal with our brothers and our sisters and our neighbor when tragedy strikes, when adversity presents itself? A landslide goes down, somebody's house goes with it or otherwise. A heavy rock boulder comes down, somebody's house gets damaged or otherwise. An accident occurs, somebody loses a loved one, or somebody is maimed, or they lose a member or other thing of that sort. How do they deal with it? How do society and family members help others to cope with those situations? It is something that we find that as a society, as Grenadians, we need to find ourselves guilty and find a deep sense of remorse for the way we handle each other, for the way we deal with situation. We sensationalize the issues too much by use of postings through social media, and we tend to forget the victims of the circumstance. There was one guy who said one time that he was in an accident, and when he asked about the accident, how he felt about it, he said one of the persons or one of the occupants in the vehicle perished or they died, but he got the worst. Well, why really? What does that mean?
Why would he say that?
The person who died, they know more. They don't have no pain, no suffering to feel.
Yeah.
He who survived the situation, he has to go through the physical pain through his body, the psychological and the emotional feeling that he has to endure for maybe the rest of his life.
Yes.
So in his own feeling, to get a sense of dealing with the situation or coming to grips, he said, you know what? That person who died, yes, I understand that person passed. But I'm alive now, and I have to deal with that situation for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And so when circumstances occur, when tragedy strikes, people tend to, yes, they reach out and empathize with the family for a moment, for those loved ones who passed on. People speak about them, the good and otherwise, for a time, and thereafter, there comes the cessation. There comes the silent moment.
Yeah.
And then these individuals are left in their own world to deal with the situation. The question is, what are the coping mechanisms that individuals need to adopt so that they can deal with the situation? I would want to give a sense of hope to people who may tend to be losing it. When you have a tragedy, it seems as though everything goes away from you. You lose that part of you. And daily, your emotion, your feelings change. There's a sense of desolation. There's a sense of emptiness. There's a sense of not wanting to go on to achieve life's objective. At times that comes on. And people would go through those situations and feel, well, I'm left alone. There is no sense. And this is why sometimes people go through a sense of depression. And because they feel there is no hope at the end, there's no support for me, they tend to resort to suicide and other tendencies. And the reason why I think I'm inspired today to speak on this, because I've been through those situations more than one time, and every time it seems I'm finding the way to ride it. And every day I think I find the strength to overcome the feelings and the emotion, and I think it's worth sharing. So there are a few points that are listed that will take the entire program. Yeah. And this is not from the academia or from my school of learning that I am bringing this as something that has to be regurgitated from just the inside, that is internalized, that is just generated because of real experience that people can use. One should find the things that you enjoy doing and make the time to do it.
Yes.
I'll pause. Let's take a call.
We lost that call. I guess the caller was not patient enough. When you said find the things you like to do and continue to do it. So you probably likes playing football.
Yes.
For some reason, there's a particular tragedy has occurred.
Yes.
Find the time. Make the time
to do it.
To do it.
The desire to do it may not come easy. Mm-hmm. You have to generate that. And I'm saying this here because I was faced with a situation one time, and because I spoke the positive thing into my spirit, it came back to me when that situation arose. Mm-hmm. I said, I will not do anything to harm myself. Yeah. I will be positive. Mm. And in the midst when I contemplated one time something that was going to be negative, that internal voice came back and he said, but you promised yourself not to do yourself anything, not to harm yourself. And it came back. So you need to be able to speak positive into your own being, into your own spirit, to generate that energy and that desire to get to do the things that are positive, that you like doing. Secondly, try to go to the places that mean or meant a lot to you that brings some sense of resolve, not somewhere that somebody chooses for you, that think that you need to do that.
Some people say you probably need to go away. You know, some folks would often give it as a way of getting over whatever you. I think you probably should go to another island.
Yes.
Or somebody may tell you probably need to go to the beach, or somebody will tell you. We're not saying always that it's a bad thing that they're telling you, but sometimes it's a decision on your own that should work for you. Let's take a caller, Sylvan, and we continue. I guess the callers are not patient this morning.
I don't know if it's a system, but maybe it's a, there you go.
Let me take this one. Caller, good morning. You're welcome. Let's hear your contribution, please.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Sylvan, and good morning, GT. Mr. Sylvan, what you have been saying now is music to my ears, because I've been one of those. Even when you were in NADMA, was trying to get us to situate the whole issue of psychosocial services as a factor, particularly after disaster. I'm glad that you're talking about it in near normal times, because that is needed more than ever. People have gone on the other side simply because those of us who remain had no understanding or empathy or understanding of the different states of human existence. And so I remember very early in the program, when you started coming on this Monday, I asked you about the psychosocial manual that was done soon after the Hurricane Ivan, which unfortunately was never used for political reasons. I say that, and I say that emphatically. I was at the lunch when the manual done, and I remember asking you questions, which wasn't answered satisfactorily. But nonetheless, can we get your support to encourage the powers that be to revive that manual, and let us have that and train people so that in the event of such thing that you're speaking about, and also when there might be a mass situation, we have a sufficient number of people that could respond adequately, rather than chaotic and irrationally reacting, thinking they want to help. I would like to hear your response. But what you're saying there is music to my ears, because this is something I've been clamoring for the longest while. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning.
You do have my support. I did. Did you realize I walked to my notebook this morning, right?
Yeah.
I intended to take some note, and I intended to refresh my memory on some points. So, yes, caller, I think Minister Gloria Thomas and I, we worked together one time, so we have a very good friendship. Okay. Can I say relationship? Yeah. And so I think I would want to be able to approach her to ask about that same manual, and if they can proliferate or create a number of them, that they become accessible to people, more families, and that you can deal with it. Yeah. So there is something called SMID, Stress Management in Disasters.
Okay.
And so I think people need to have access to that kind of information as to how to deal with it, and if there are instruments for that. Social services, we can find out whether or not they do have that means of creating the SMID, that people can have access to maybe the courses and a manual. And there is something called the post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSDs.
Yes.
You do have that situation after something traumatic has happened, and people need to find a way of recovering from it. And very often, the state mechanism in wide situation where you have a wide cross-section like Hurricane Ivan, where every family member directly or indirectly was affected, the state mechanism will become overwhelmed.
Right.
And oftentimes, individuals will be required to find your own coping and treatment mechanism. And this is why I chose to speak about how, because I know we have an audience, we'll reach some people. And at times, most of the times, you would find yourself alone.
So true.
You cannot muster the energy to call anybody. get on the telephone or get somewhere, and sometimes you do not feel to even accommodate or entertain anybody. But in that period of time, because you have some knowledge, you have some experience, and you have the tenacity, the internal strength that you can find to deal with this situation, you are able to keep yourself alive longer for the time that God has allowed you. There has to be a coping mechanism. And one of the points I raised was finding the things that you like doing and do it.
Yes.
The places that you enjoyed going, find them, because there are places that are very nostalgic. They carry sentimental values and meanings to people. There are people who go back to certain places where they had a relationship, where they had an inspiration to write a song, to do a poem or otherwise. You find these places. Now, what happens here is that you are beginning to fill that void that was created as a result of that trauma, that loss, and that what people call that miss that you have. You are beginning to have things to fill in those areas. Should that area be left empty and vacant for too long, there are other things that will find itself inside. You know when people said that an idle hand is the devil's workshop?
And most time it's the negative stuff that gets to fill that.
The negative stuff that gets in there. So the two factors that I raised, doing the things, going the places.
Yeah.
The other one, when trauma occurs, there are people who reach out and empathize to people. And there are people who can entertain others, and there are others who cannot. And members of the society and public should try to analyze a situation before you make an intervention to somebody you think that may need your support or your help.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the person who is offered that kind of support, I've heard people say already, I don't want to hear empathize, but I don't want to hear people say simply, I don't want to hear anything of that sort. The next point I'm making is that find the softest way to refuse offers that are, in your opinion, unacceptable.
Yeah.
There are times when people go through their worst moment, you turn away useful conditions that might be helpful to you. Under the circumstance, you may not want to accept a particular help that might be offered to you. The way in which you do it and how you do it may make a difference. We'll take a call.
Let's take a caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome. Be brief, please.
Good morning, Mr. GT, or the abbreviation.
Go right ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. McIntyre.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I'm just listening to the whole thing about, I guess about the summer around disaster strike, yeah? All right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I guess as much as Mr. McIntyre know what he's talking about, sometimes, we know it theoretical, everything to help and talk and so forth, but when he comes home to roost, then we know what they're talking about. I'm making a point to spiritually and both in the natural world. There was one man that had a mountain, and he had a Land Rover. So he had a young boy going to the land and climb an orange tree for him. So one day he fell and he cried. So the elder man watched the younger boy and said, you don't cry. You're too young, don't cry. One day the rover in the mountain had a flip. And then the old man started to cry. So the young boy came and he said, old men don't cry. And that was a stage of recovering for the old man when he remembered what he had said to the young man. I'm saying all this to say at times when disasters strike, as Mr. McIntyre well knows, when we look at the account of Job, there are people that may come around you to come and sympathize with you, but in that, as I heard him saying a while ago, it could be a weight to them and push them further into it, because Job's wife came and said something in all his misery. And he's an example of us that when some people could embrace the thing, the only word that uttered in our mouth, you are in Job's shoe. And Mr. McIntyre is one of them that we look at him today, that how he embraced his situation. So I love to hear him talking on the program about that, but in the same breath, sometimes it is so easy to say than to get it done. But we need people that can encourage us, because you said something, the thing that we like the most. You know, when disaster strike, one of the worst things that could happen to any one of us, the thing that we love to eat. And that is the hardest thing to happen for us to eat. I say no more.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. We do have one more caller. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, welcome, and try to be brief, please.
Yes.
Yes, I'll be very brief. Good morning, Mr. McIntyre and Mr. Telesford. Mr. McIntyre, you just touch a little, Ivan, and you say we have an agriculture background, nature, whatever. I know you deal with loss, with grief and those things. I think that we have seen during Ivan, a lot of people, when they lost their property, they grieve, they die because of the nutmeg industry and different things. But what I'm seeing now, and I think maybe you need to look at it and touch on it, the financial aspect of thing, when people can lose all their saving, all what they put aside for the family, all what they depend to carry them through. And sometimes they take on those things and they die. I don't know if recently you was listening in the news with this guy with big coin from the Bahamas, I think he had something like 25 years imprisonment. He took all the people's saving and spent it, whatever he do. And some of those people went and they commit suicide when they realize they lose all their saving. So I think that is something we have to look at, especially in this electronic age where people can lose all their savings, they grieve, they die, they leave family, cope with those grief. These are things we need to touch on too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much, and appreciate, of course, your contribution.
Yes, and GT, we established this from the time we decided to touch that topic.
Yeah,
it was not going to get very far because it is so deep. There's so much that we can speak about, as the caller just intimated with the financial issue, and I think these are some of the factors that social services have considered. So while I do not represent it, but I know they've considered it, and this is why in some cases they allow cash to be made available to people because they may not be able to recover you or indemnify you to the fullest to where you were. But in some form of support, they would try to bring you to the point where you feel as near normal as possible. So even if you may have, again, a roof over your head, you may get bed, people may give you some clothes or otherwise, but the other aspect of your life that you need to feel normal with, being able to purchase something that you like in your own time with the money that is coming from your pocket.
Yes.
As the gentleman said, that's a sense of relief. It gives you a sense of achievement. So the recovery process of persons, the psychosocial therapy that people would need to undertake, it has to be something that tries to get you to the point where your life is beginning to roll out as near as normal as possible. That aids the healing process much quicker than anything else, so that the interventions that are being made, they are geared towards giving you a normal or a near normal sense of living, rather than going to the point of grieving over your loss, lamenting over it, and playing the blame game.
All right.
You're cussing God, like in the case where the gentleman spoke about Job. His wife said, you have done all of what you've been doing. Look what God allowed you to go. You just cursed God and dead.
Yeah.
And he said, in my affliction, I will never do that. And the people who came around, who tried to empathize, there are a lot of people who Job referred to as miserable comforters. In a situation where people go through traumatic situation, you may well not entertain some people.
Yeah.
And this is why the other point I made is finding the softest way of turning away the offers that you think is unacceptable at the time.
Yeah.
The gentleman also said it is easier said than done. But you can only take from something if you had something. If you don't, and the point I'm making that, if you don't have any knowledge, no experience, you have nothing to bank on. But the information that I'm giving, the information that social services and the other entities, education and otherwise, will be providing, it would give you a reserve or a background from things in which you can deep and take. And in my situation, I remember when that first call came, a very close friend of mine said to me, Mr. McIntyre, your professional life kicked in almost immediately.
Yeah.
Alongside your parental responsibility. So your training and your emotional development and your educational capacity do help you in adversity and in coping with situation. And this is why there is never an end to learning. And the more one is endowed with knowledge, the more one gets experience, and it is the easier it becomes to deal with the situation. Because as I mentioned before, oftentimes you are the lone voice crying in the wilderness, and you are the lone soldier fighting the battle on the front, because those around you may not be fighting the kind of a war that you really want.
All right. So, Mac, we already get into that time of the morning. It's 1 minute after the hour of 10 o'clock. Sometimes we have too much time, and sometimes we don't have enough time. And
this is definitely one of those that we could continue. Like we did, we can split it with other programs, because the amount of trauma that Grenada is going through right now, we really need more programs to help more families, to help more individuals. And we need to see more community involvement, networking among clubs, groups, churches, organizations, and so on. Not just depending on the government and the state mechanism, but socially, societally, we should become more responsive, more open to helping those cope with adversities and traumatic conditions.
You know, with all this said, there's something that always have to be able to motivate individuals of wanting to do that. The motivational part of it is also very important.
What motivates people to want to do it?
To want to do it. You know, there have to be something that will want somebody to all of you have said, and offering all the emotional support and so on, but something have to motivate you to want to do it. And there's sometimes there are things that just don't motivate people to want to do anything, even though they know they have the capacity to help someone. But they always feel, I'm not motivated to do it for various reasons.
Can I give you a motivation? I say to people when I teach first aid that there are three main reasons why you try to learn first aid. One is to preserve a life.
Yes.
Two is to prevent a situation from becoming worse. And three, from promoting recovery. But the greatest incentive one can get from learning, the skill that you attain belongs to you. The knowledge that you have become yours.
Yes.
But the life which you're likely to save could be yours or your loved one. The caller said that it never hits home until the roost comes to
roost.
So that's an incentive to wanting it to generate the desire to want to help somebody else, because today is mine, tomorrow could be yours or your family.
That's so true, so true. Mr. Mac, thank you once again for being on the program this morning. As usual, always interesting program. All who contributed via the social media platforms, the Facebook, the WhatsApp, didn't get to read any of the contributions this morning, but certainly I will take a peek at them after the program. Thank you so much. Join us again next week. Once the Almighty permits, I'll be back to do another program for you. And we certainly will continue on this vein and even offer even more.
Correct.
All right. Hey, folks, thank you once again for being part of To The Point. Have yourself a good one. Best wishes for you for the rest of the day. That's where I say goodbye.